Alright guys, it's time to finally do something I don't normally do, or I don't normally gravitate towards with dynas and stuff, but we're going to install a fairing. Usually with dynos and smaller bikes, I kind of like the open feel, the more naked feel, but Saddleman released an SRT mini fairing, and I've kind of liked it ever since they released it. So I've decided to throw that on this bike here. And we got it right over there in the box. I will say, I've already kind of opened it up to get all the wrapping off, so it's easier to show you guys. It looks pretty good. And for the price point, if you have a black bike, it's perfect. It already painted black. It looks really good to that color. Now, of course, we're painting our bike and it wasn't black from the factory, so we had to paint it anyways. But instead of coming like that raw, just plastic or primered color that other companies will do, and I'm not sponsored by Saddleman or anything, I was just very surprised that it came in a very nice gloss black that you can already put on a bike and just be done with it. But let me show you. So here we have the box. Like I said, we've already got all the wrapping and stuff off the fairing. So let's just give a first little look. That's kind of anticlimactic, is it not? But pull that bad boy out. And this is how you get it in the box. So this fairing already has the windshield on it. It's got your bracket on it. You can see right there. We are going to have to disassemble all this. We have to disassemble it anyways because we're taking the shell for paint. But I think the color we paint it with that black little windscreen is going to pop off real nice. You do have to disassemble and put your headlight in here. We're going to go through all that. I'm going to read through the instructions real quick and we're going to get after it. All right, we just did some disassembly. Doesn't look like much, but we took the windshield off and we took the little inner structure part in here out because that's going to need to be painted. This outer shell plus this piece goes in for some structure. This part and everything's going to have to be painted because you're going to see it and we want everything to match. So we're going to have to get that painted. But now that we have that apart, I think we can disassemble the bracket, get the headlight figured out, get the bracket on, maybe hold up the fairing, but we're not really going to be able to. We might put the fairing on there just to see what it looks like, see how hard it is to pop on and off, and then we'll do it for paint. I do know that we're going to have to disassemble our headlight. We probably could have or should have already done that. But we're going to take this thing apart, and I guess we're just going to be reusing the headlight itself, I believe. Not quite sure what else. We're going to figure it out as we go. All right, we got the wires depinned here. We took a picture before, just so we know exactly where they are. They're kind of just a regular metal spade connector. They are pretty big. I'm gonna try to show you what I did here. I had to watch a video to try to figure this out. It's not really gonna focus in on this, so it's really hard. But basically you have a clip here and a clip here. And all it is holding the side of each spade connector. So we took a screwdriver, slid it down, and kind of pushed this clip back on each side. And I used two. As soon as we pull that, both those clips, little plastic clips right here, one on each side. And once we had these depressed, basically our screwdriver in between the clip and the metal piece, then I just took a pair of needle nose and pulled that connector right out. And we're able to get it. It's really hard to show. I watched a few videos and it was really hard to see on film. I think it's just one of those things, once you get in here and start looking through it, pretty sure you'll figure it out. But I think we can take the headlight bucket out now. All right, just like that, the headlight's off. The little rubber grommet that was in here, we ended up taking a pair of scissors and splitting that open, just like down the seam, so we can get the wiring off, and then we were able to get the connectors pushed out of here, just so nothing's damaged and everything can be reused. But I don't think we're gonna go back to that on this bike. At least, I hope not. All right, so we had to change the GoPro battery, but finally got the bracket and the fairing separated. So now technically we should be able to take this over to paint my buddy's house, but we're gonna install the bracket and maybe try to mock it up there a little bit to see what it looks like. But there is multiple rings and a lot of hardware to put this thing together. I understand, I knew that was gonna be a little bit of a process, but it's almost like putting a clutch pack together where everything just has to be pieced in perfectly. Like, there's a lot of pieces and rings to get your headlight and the fairing mounted all together. It's definitely been engineered. All right, well, this is somewhat of a mock-up. I know it doesn't look like it's supposed to, but the bracket can't be completely tightened because the tank's not on. That's going to take up some of the space. And then the fairing isn't even all the way to the bracket. We just put a bolt in there to kind of let it hang, kind of see where we're going to be at and how this thing looks. Doesn't look too bad, but I think we're finally at the process to where we can't really go any further because all the rings and stuff need to be mounted through the fairing, and our bracket's kind of just going to live here. I might be able to do that bottom bracket. I need to look at that. But other than that, we need to get this fairing off to paint and get that handled. All right, so at this point, of course, it hasn't been the most instructional video, but we are going to take a break because we need to get this thing painted. I don't think there's really much else we can do. I threw the bottom bracket on the bike and the top bracket's on there. Everything's loose because it's going to dictate once we get the tank on and where the fairing mounts up, you know, where everything's gonna live, and then we can tighten it down. It's gonna be probably kind of very nitpicky getting all this stuff lined up and all this stuff done. I kind of wish that I could have put everything together just to pull it back off, but that's just a lot of work, and I really need to get this to my painter today. Maybe if I had a couple extra days, I could have done that, but instead of just ending this video here, I could have just mounted this all black, called it a day, but we're not going to do that. We're going to get this thing painted, bring it back to you, and we are going to install this and have it on the bike when it's done, which means you are going to see a huge transformation, because at this point, when we do this video, that means we've got all the paint. Now, the bike's not going to be finished, because I'm not going to worry about putting everything together the second I get it back. The big thing is putting that tank on. So yeah, once the tank's on, I can put the bracket and put this on. So I'm not going to worry about putting everything together. Just need to get this thing mounted in case there's issues or I do something wrong, because that's always a very good chance. But we're going to take this over to my buddy who paints. And if you're watching this, that means probably, maybe, the whole paint set video is out, because I don't know which one's going to come out first. maybe this one, maybe that one. I don't know. So you should subscribe. At this point, if you're watching this, if you've been watching the Dyna Build series, subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. We try to bring cool stuff here. But let's stop rambling. And next time we see it, this should be a really nice color of... All right, guys, the fairing is back from paint, and boy, does it look good. Let me show you because it's already installed. So we went ahead and put the fairing on. I'll explain in a minute. But this thing is looking so good. So good. All right, so we went ahead and installed this thing because I had the tank and the fairing. I had kind of put them both on. And I'm running out of time. This thing needs to be done in a few days, and I just needed to focus, read through the instructions, put this thing together, and be very careful not to mess up the paint. Now, the paint's not perfect. We did have to rush our painter, so what we're gonna do as soon as we get back from this show, we're gonna take it back to him. He's gonna cut the buff. He's gonna fix some graphics on the tank and cut and buff the front fairing. He knew how important it was to get it back, so it's kind of unfinished. But on video, you're probably not gonna be able to tell any of it. It's just some in-person kind of looking pretty close. He's not super happy with it, but he knew I needed it back. So we're gonna fix it after the fact. Now, I do need to remind you, this is not a show bike. When I say we're taking it to a show, I mean a vendor show. Like I own my own clothing brand. It's wretchedclothing.com. We sell clothing, accessories, stuff like that. So I wanted the bike in the booth because we got saddlebags, bar bags, and different things like those. That's why I wanted it. That's why I need it. So let me show you just kind of a rough guide on putting this fairing on. So if you remember, we took off the windscreen, we took everything out of here, and then we took the back support off, which is this piece right here, the kind of inner fairing part. Took all that apart to get it painted. Now, of course, we kept the windshield, the headlight, and all that, and he painted the outer shell and this top inner shell. Which is an amazing color in my opinion. But we went ahead, once we got the tank back, we could fit up this bracket. This is the bracket that kind of mounts the whole front assembly. And then we have a small bracket right here that bolts to the center of your frame, come out and hit the kind of wing part of the fairing. Now everything's pretty much straightforward. Once you take this off and you got your little headlight, you basically have a top ring, headlight, and then bottom ring that mounts together. And then that just mounts in the fairing once the fairing's already mounted to the bracket. At first, once you're taking everything off, in my opinion, it looks a little daunting, but you're just taking everything apart because they mounted everything to make it easier to ship. And what you're doing is just taking it all apart so you can put everything together, and everything fits in pretty easily. The instructions are pretty good. You can kind of figure everything out. And after doing one, it's super easy. It's just, you have like 3 different sizes of hardware and you're trying to figure out what goes where at first. And I knew that I was taking mine apart and then waiting a week or 2 to get stuff back. I think I waited a week. So my memory was not there. But the pictures and the instructions, they did help pretty well. I'm happy with it. I think the fairing's pretty sturdy. I can't wait to actually ride with it. Everything seems pretty adjustable. I mean, I feel like there's one good kind of like line with the tank, figuring out where it wants to fit. But I mean, I'm pretty excited with it. I think the fitment's really good. I think the quality's pretty good. It comes painted a very nice black. If you have a black bike or you have something where the fairing can be black, it's out of the box ready. I just wanted it purple because that's what we're doing. If I wanted to paint this bike black, that would have been an easy thing for me to do, just to throw this on, call it a day. I think the fairing's pretty good. I will do a kind of like a review video once we actually get to ride with it, because I have no idea how this windshield's gonna do, what type of buffeting we're gonna have, visibility or any of those things. So we will be doing a full review. Again, it does, if you've been following this series, it does kind of suck. Basically building this bike without being able to test out the parts individually, but that's just how it goes. It's winter build season and we are kind of swinging for the fences. So that's what we're doing. But everything was pretty easy and it got together. It would have been nice to have one extra person when I was installing this, but I mean, I was able to do it by myself pretty easy. It's not that bad. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But that's pretty much gonna wrap this up. If you do have any questions, please comment down below. I'll try to answer them, and if it's big enough, maybe I'll do a video on it. But I think it's pretty straightforward. If you're looking into this, this is the Saddleman SRT fairing or mini SRT fairing. I suggest it. If you like it and you're into it, go for it. I don't see anything that's really bad about it. I mean, we'll see once we get to riding it, but first impressions are really good. So if you don't mind, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and definitely enjoy the look of this thing. But as always, keep it wretched.